Yo, 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 what is going on, COD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and along with me, as always, is our good and gracious co-host, MrSneakyy. We are here for the 5th episode that Sneak was kind enough to remind me on as we were taking a look at which number we're on, even though it has only been a couple episodes so far of the CoD Pod. We got a great show for you today, a lot of awesome things on the docket. We're going to be touching on the PC client, talk some talent pages, some new heroes, maybe some other things in between, and just kind of see where the wind takes us. Sneak, how we doing?
Yeah, man, I'm doing really good. I've been absolutely busy with the game. I've been doing a lot of research, especially on talent pages, so I'm excited for that section. But yeah, I can't wait to get into everything today. It's just one of them ones where I think we've got quite a lot of content and a lot of good topics coming forward for everyone, which is going to be really good. So I'm not going to drag it out too long, because you know what I'm like with intros. I like just going straight into the nitty-gritty topics. So how have you been? Have you been all right?
Yeah, man. I got some family visiting this week, so from California, so it's nice to be hanging out with them, and we've had opportunity to go and get some good food while they're visiting me out here, and they get a chance to see the little kiddos running around. So it is always a pleasure. So my day slash time has been very much occupied for a good bit of the past couple days. So it's nice to be able to finally get a little breath of fresh air after getting caught up on a lot, and have a chance to sit down and get another one of these episodes in for the books.
Yeah, man. Yeah, sounds good. Let's go move forward. Let's get into it. Yeah. So what's the first topic? What have we got for everyone today? What we're pushing forward?
So first one we'll touch on is gonna be the PC client. Now, this one was what seemed to be, right, first and foremost, we had no idea that they were even going to be doing a PC client until we ended up hearing the whispers, right, the COD CS whispers that typically happens, and it's, such dramatic fashion, as we've come to find out through our tenure, if we want to call it that, in COD. And then pretty much shortly after we got the tidbit of information, it drops. And there really wasn't a heads up where they said, oh yeah, hey, it's going to come out in a couple days, or it's going to come out in a week or two. No, nothing like that. It dropped. Facebook put a post out. They put, I believe, an announcement on the COD Discord.
Yeah.
It launches, and everyone's just scrambling to try and get access to it.
It was chaos.
And as in traditional fashion, when you're coming out with something for the first time, depending on how tested and how stress tested it is, there, were however many people that just weren't able to get access to it. I think part of that is multifold, because of the fact that, the game is, I'm sure people like myself and others who are playing in regions that are just not unlocked at this time might be finding some challenges and hurdles. And I'm sure once the game goes global and they do another patch or update to it, I'm sure that'll correct a lot. But let's start with you first, right? Again, how do you feel about the PC client? What are your impressions thus far?
Oh, I love it. I'm not even gonna lie. I've had the Rise of Kingdoms one before, and I've used BlueStacks as well. But those clients I've always had problems with. I've always had some sort of crash issue of some sort. But so far from using this PC client, I haven't had any issues. It's so surprising, where you expect it, even in a raid. That's where I was loving it the most, because I got to do some raid gameplay on the PC client to actually stress test. Okay, I've got max frames on, I've got max graphics settings, I've got everything up onto ultra. How much can this game handle before it just crushes the client,
implodes.
Right? Yeah, how much can I actually force this thing to blow up? And you know what? There was so many animations, there was so many shadow blades being activated, and it just handled it. It handled it with, you know, I think it's like 6. I had it at like maxed out frames, so I don't know what it caps out at. Maybe 120, 200, who knows? Like, they don't really state when you hit like the uncapped option, but yeah, I actually do really enjoy it. Even like the key bindings of like setting troops up and setting the like. There's a specific one called like set select group. There's like 2 different variants of it, but like I have it set up on my actual like shift 1, but before it's set to something else. And it just allows you to like say like if you're in really quick combat and you want to group units, you could just like go like press 1, then like shift 1, and that's group 1. And if you had, say, like, I don't know, another archer on like your 4th position, you could just like press 4 to choose them, then hit shift 1, and now they're in group 1 with the first match. So now if I just press group 1 button, which is for me F1, I control all of those units together now, and I don't have to like worry about it. And like for combat, it's like such a game changer, because it's gonna allow people to like basically micromanage like you was hoping for, like in like games like StarCraft and League of Legends, Age of Empires. Like you could name all these different like RTS or MOBA like strategy base games that require like really good movement and actually really good mechanics for a player to play the game, right? Because you could just bulldoze your way through and you think like, oh, you know, ha ha ha. But when you see a player where they're somehow controlling two different cavalry units on the like right side, they've got like 2 mages in the middle, and they've got, you know, an archer maybe on the left flank, like maybe a flying unit as well, like, and they're able to control all these 5 units on 3 different flanks. You actually feel the pressure like on you. It's terrifying when you get multiple people being able to do that. So for me, the PC client is like 10 out of 10. Like for me, it's going to be one of the big game changers, I think, for the game. It's going to get a lot of popularity, I think, because of the PC client. It's kind of strange where it's almost like the mobile game is like the stepping stone, and then if you go on to the PC client, it's like here's the true experience. It's kind of crazy how much you get actually playing the PC client over the mobile one. It's kind of like almost not like pay to win, but like download to win almost, because of just the, you know, like I say, the flexibility of being able to just control so much so easily and customize it all to however you want. That's even more crazier. Like on the Rock one, I believe when it first came out, you couldn't even do that. So it's big shout out, big props for Lilith. For me, I didn't know, like you explained, how they kind of like teased it. I didn't even realize they were bringing one out, because I do go in the CoD Dragons Discord a lot, but not as enough as I should, and I don't like back read, so that's probably like my problem. So if it's not there where I've read, it's just like, yeah, okay. And the next minute, this PC thing just dropped on me, and I was like, oh. You know, let's get this downloaded before I'm not getting it. So yeah, it is a big 10 out of 10 in my book so far. Obviously there's going to be improvements, there's going to be extras that's going to get added in that not anyone really probably considers at the moment, but for an initial launch for a beta game as well, just to like remind everyone, it is like definitely like a good 10 out of 10 client. It's not a bad client at all. Like I've seen way worse.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't think I can disagree with anything said there. I think, I mean, even if you add on being able to quick cast your artifact skills without having to go and click each one on that right interface pop out, or the sidebar on the right side of the screen, I mean, even just doing that will save you time. And
on that, I don't even know when you activate your artifacts now. So like if you have Shadow Blades on the mobile version, it's kind of weird. Like it feels like Shadow Blades is kind of static to use, if that makes sense. Like you hit the artifact and it's kind of like you tap the target and it does it. But when you use something on like Viola's bow on mobile, behaves completely different. It's like you activate it and it forces you to aim, right? And when you play the PC client, it's like that for everything. It forces you to aim everything when you're playing it. So it's kind of like, again, like you're playing like League of Legends. So you press Q, you're activating this ability. Make sure you aim correctly and you're hitting your target, right? Because if your mouse is in the wrong position, it's just gonna like fling to the right. So it's gonna be quite funny to see some people do it, but it is another like really good skill aspect to the game, and it I think it's just, again, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
No, man, very, very, very much so. You know, it's, you know, I think when I look at the PC client, and you know, I think just not only with how smooth it is, but you know, even when you look at it coming from Rock, the PC client there, you know, did help with reducing some lag and some of those larger fights. And I think that's something we'll see. I mean, even just watching a couple dragon fights on some other kingdoms with the PC client, you know, I had pretty much no lag, didn't have any timeouts or freezes that occurred, similar to, you know, running my emulator, which sometimes that would happen every once in a while. And so I think just from purely a seamless playing experience, the PC client is definitely a win. Obviously, for those that, you know, have a laptop or desktop and are able to run it, it is a huge victory, I think, for the game. The fact that you can customize all your keybinds for, you know, even just standard buildings, you know, is such a big win, that you can just kind of quickly go and navigate where you need to, when you need to, is fantastic. And I think, as you hinted at already, when it comes to customizing your legions, your marches, you know, if you plan to run, you know, 2 infantry, 3 ranged, you know, you can group those, and you can click on that and move your infantry here, click on your range, you know, micro it here, kind of always keep it at max distance. I mean, you just have those opportunities now to do. And, you know, you can still do it obviously on mobile. It just, you know, takes a little, you know, a few more clicks to do, I'm sure. But the fact that they're giving you the opportunity to go that in depth and customize in that way, I think is great. Even just like the emoji screen of being able just to have a nice, easy, hey, you know, I'll remove this emoji and I want to add this one. And, you know, I think those things, and even like the quick chats, I think the emoji thing and the quick chats will, you know, will hopefully, what I'd really like for them to do is maybe add something where you can customize maybe the text that you have. To me, that seems like the next big one, because you can use that. If you could work in custom text, right? Where, or even if we just say, hey, here's like the 10, like as a community, if everyone voted, and that might be something that we put together where we do something like, hey, okay, you know, give us like the 10 quick chats that you would like to have in the game, like ones that are maybe more PvP oriented, right? For either an on-field general, you know, like another example would be like, here's another idea, right? Tell me what you think about this. If they allowed for you to put a crown or a C or like a captain's hat or something over a specific player's legion. They do, right? Now. Like for well, I mean they do, but not. No, you can now.
It's like the
symbol or something.
Yeah, so R4s can select individual legions now, enemies or allies. When they select them, and they highlight them with this flag or something, whatever it is, that march constantly has this green beacon on it, so you can constantly see it. And it will have whatever symbol is, so they kind of have that already, which is good.
Yeah, what I mean is, like, you just designate a player, so every single time that, so like if those marches die from that player, the moment they come back onto the field, they still have those, right? So it's more like you're designating the player as a captain or an on-field general, rather than, and don't get me wrong, right? I still think the fact that you can do it with that current march or legion's instance is still great. I mean, it's still a cut above. But if they eventually take it to the next step, which is, okay, hey, we'll designate this player, so every time, so like, for example, if one of their legions dies, then that icon will go to the next legion of that designated player, right? That's still on the field. And then let's say all their legions die or whatnot, right? Then the first legion to come out of the city will be the one that has the designation, right? Obviously, if you didn't change it, or if maybe they just give you the option to either say, well, hey, or maybe they give you the way to do it both ways, right? Maybe you can designate a player, and then you can designate individual marches, right? So maybe you can do both in the future. So that way you can say like, okay, well, hey, I'll give the heal symbol to all of our healers, right? So everyone knows where our healers are. So if they ever need to reposition to get close to a healer or jumble up, or maybe you can use those icons in real time where you basically throw like a heal marker on a piece of land, right? So that's something I don't know if you can do, right? If you can place one of those real-time markers on just a plot of land, and that plot of land would be like the area where the healers will heal you, right? So like maybe you throw one down similar to how like a healing mana stone or a healing stone will pop up from behemoth raids, right? So you'll throw a marker down, and then you'll have 5 or 6 units that'll rush there, and then the moment they get there, someone throws like a tier of Arbin down.
I get what you're saying. So right? We have markers, which obviously mark a zone, but instead of a marker, you could put down basically like a beacon. So then like the beacon still is a marker in essence, but it has like a big AoE, for example, and that AoE circle might be like 10 players need to be in to like, okay, we're ready to go, basically. Like it's just like a social gathering almost beacon, right? That'd be really cool. Yeah, that'd be a really good idea.
Like I think those types of things where they can really expand on, right? Because they're already obviously adding in markers that you can use for instances and legions on the field. They have on-field structures that you can build. They're kind of going already in that type of overlay approach of, we're going to give you things that you can see visually on the screen. We'll give you things that you can build, right, that are outside of your march or a stationary building, like a city until it moves, or a tree or a bridge or a pass. Like they're basically, it's almost like they're letting you draw on the screen in a way. If you look at it in that perspective, right, where they give you these icons that you can put on legions, that when they move, that icon moves, and so on and so forth. So to me, it almost just seems like, whether they're doing these things as like, maybe introductory pieces or tests to then build on it further. But I guess my point is that it feels like they can build on it further, and they can do more, where you're giving the alliances more tools and more support for those alliances to try and be as efficient as they can, right, when they're fighting, especially for the big wars.
Yeah, definitely. No, I get what you're saying. It would be such a great actually like addition, because it's again like you say, like you're adding ways of communication, but it's not even like communication that's complex, right? It's very easy to understand. Come to this location. I need 10 members here, and it's a big AoE. Once we've got 10 members, we're good to go, right? So it's just like a really good way of doing it. It's fast as well, and it's efficient. Because that's the one problem with like a lot of people's ideas, right? You want like a beacon or something of this sort, but it's like, how are you gonna think of how you do it, right? And like a lot of people give random ideas, and you just kind of look at it and like, it's a really cool idea, but in the game, when like we're trying to do it in war, it just wouldn't work. But when you like talk about like how, because we already have, like you say, like the marker system, the fact that you can expand on it into a beacon now, and just play an AoE beacon that's maybe only about, like it might be just like a standard like 10 by 10 or 20 by 20, choose 1 or 2 different sizes for like if you need a smaller ball or a big ball of it, allies there and so forth. And it really, again, like just as long as it's like easy to read, easy to understand for players in game, I think there will be like no issues with it, because it would be a really good like aspect to add to the game, especially for combat. It'd be just nuts for combat, because I just want to see it like for a shoutcaster, because imagine like being a shoutcaster and seeing the beacons being dropped and being able to like commentate as it's like being dropped, and you can see the planning being done in real time, and you can see the movements being like basically plotted and successfully applied on and stuff by members. It'd be really sick. Like, so it's a really good idea. I've never thought of something like that. I've never thought of like a beacon idea, so it was a really cool idea that you brought it up. So that would be a really good one to to bring to the game if any of them are listening to the podcast.
Yeah, man. No, I mean, I think everything kind of has its own merits. I think when I think anytime you're playing something for a while and you research, you talk to a lot of other people, especially and even more so when you're actually in it, and not only maybe as a player, but also as an officer and a leader, at least I'd hope, right? Eventually, you'd kind of get a grasp of, well, okay, well, this is what I can do right now. What else can we do to try and, are there other opportunities that we can look at when it comes to doubling down or investing more? How can we develop this and maybe expand it in some way? And I just think the fact that CoD has done such a great job of hammering down on the enjoyment for open field PvP is really the bread and butter of the game. And doing things where you are supporting the alliance, you're supporting the players to make it easier for a new player to understand what's going on and what they need to do will always allow for those individuals to feel that much more confident and comfortable if and when they decide to go out and fight. And that's how you keep players playing. And when I look at it like that, that's kind of the part of my brain that will look at, okay, well, how can we improve the day-to-day player experience in this area? And so who knows, right? If it's something they will expand. I mean, I just still think the game is so young, right? It's so new that they have so much opportunity to still add things to the game. And to me, that unknown on where the direction still is going to go for the game is exciting because you're almost hyped. You're in angst of just waiting to see what are they going to do next. So,
yeah,
all right.
I agree. Honestly, I do agree, but
so,
I can't wait for talents.
Yeah, I was gonna say yeah. So let's move on. Obviously, this is your big one here that I know you wanted to touch on. So when it comes to talent pages, again, I'll mirror and feed off you for this one. So let you go on talents, and I know there's a few, at least one or two I know you really want to touch on and talk about. So because you were telling me a little bit about this before we went live. So but anyways, with that being said, go ahead and you can start us off here.
Oh yeah, so there's a load of things to do with like talent and talent pages. People think they understand, but they don't, or there's like misconceptions again about things. But a lot of things what I want to talk about with the talent pages is just like clearing up premises. So one of the things that I've read in countless comments, I don't know if you know this, but it's like a lot of people think like the peacekeeping talent tree, if you use the peacekeeping talent tree in like a behemoth raid, it should like count, but it doesn't. The peacekeeping talent tree only actually applies to killing patrols and like forts. That is the only areas you're looking at. That's kind of why it's one of the worst trees in the entire game. So if you're ever looking into putting any points into it, just be kind of reluctant to do it. And another thing with like talent trees that it's a lot different to games like Rock, because like people come from Rock and play this game and then they try and figure out like how does the system work, but they treat it the same as Rock, which is like talents are just like a single talent and they don't stack. But in this game they do stack, which is like another big fundamental people need to understand, because like especially when you've got like gathering commanders. The Gathering Commander's stacking Earth's Grace is just such an OP talent. Like, I can't stress like how broken this talent is at the moment, especially with like, I've mentioned it in my latest video. I know like Hulk put a video out on it as well, to do with your deputies being able to gain XP still, even if they're not Gathering Commanders. So if you have a level 20 Keller, for example, and you've got some decent talents on her, because you're going to have at least 6 points into that Earth's Grace, it will max her out as fast as possible, and then any of the other XP that's not there just gets leaked over to the other one. So your other hero, when you're running out of like CPs and stuff, and obviously you need CP to level up, You only have so much of it, but resource, you have infinite amount of resource, and you have an infinite amount of time to farm in, realistically. So that downtime where people are looking at like what to do, like I know a load of people were just sending just heroes out with just like a single gatherer, or they might have sent both gatherers together, right? But with the new season, and like with speaking to the support team and that, it's been such a great like actually like learning experience on talents themselves, just like how they fundamentally work as well, because that's the one thing where I think, again, like I said, a lot of people are getting very big misconceptions on it, right? Because you can look at talent trees as a way like Rock, where you can play 45 points in that one tree, and then okay, I've got to the end of the tree, let's put the last 15 points into another tree, which is exactly like the Rock mindset. That's you never realistically in Rock went full into one tree. You always had like 40 points in one tree, you might have had like 13 points in another tree, 7 in another. Like you could have done some weird builds just to gain the best amount of stats as possible, because obviously you was looking for the stats that were added to your march but wasn't stacking multiplicatively, because that wouldn't work. So but in this game it's the like complete opposite. So it's like, if you're looking for a talent build, and this is like the biggest advice, especially like if you're very new to the game, right, and you're looking for a talent build and you have no clue where to go, right, the first tip is obviously ignore peacekeeping. But the major tip is, generally, depending on the hero you're playing, if you look at the hero, you should be able to make some sort of judgment on what they want to do, right? So like, if you just took like Velyn, the brand new hero, for example, he's just come in the game, you kind of look at him, he's all about massive AoE nukes. He's all about trying to get as much AoE nukes down, right? So like, if you, for example, went into the talents tree for Velyn, you have obviously your magic, PvP control, amazing trees to go into. All 3 of them have benefits, and this is where it's gonna, I think, take talent trees a lot longer to master compared to Rock, because there's certain talents in the game that everyone will notice that if you go to any talent page right now, if you load up the game, boot up anyone you want, right, your first 6 talents, so if you would say you got to level 11 and you hit your middle keystone, right, now you have 15 talent points to go in any direction, and you unlock that, the magic, the cool keystone, right? So in the magic tree, it's either the magic maelstrom or energy boost, right? So it's like the big payoff for going down, right? And that's halfway through. But like I said, the first set of 3, if you want to call it row 1 and row 2, if you look at every single one, they're all generically the same. It's like very kind of like okay effects. They're kind of like basic abilities that no matter which one generally you go, isn't too much of a impact where it's gonna make your march like terrible. But it's when you look past that where everything matters, because like when you look past the initial halfway mark on talent trees, that's where like a lot of the power in the actual talent tree relies in. So like, when I was experimenting with builds, as you know, with I've like shown with Shinji and videos and so forth, you got like the precision tree, and like the precision tree is such an insanely powerful tree, and you can, if you like specialized in it, which I'm calling it now, like just specializing in one talent tree where you max out all 60 points into it, the benefit of doing that is so insanely powerful because of the amount of like high reward level 3 buffs that you gain to your march. So like, when you look at a normal precision tree, you always generally have like extra normal attack crit, and you have the normal attack crit damage, right? Having that's great, obviously it's always great, but when you start pairing that with the fact that you mitigate 2.5% of their defense, and then you afflict fragility on top of them, and then you're getting even more rage when you're launching a normal attack, and then when you do cast your rage skill, you inflict another onslaught trigger. These are all insanely powerful abilities, and that's why they left all the way to the end, right? And like, if you specialize in a tree, you'll realize like the payoff is you're literally like, instead of being a jack of all trades, you're the specialist, right? You're like, I'm not just a normal guy, I'm like an elite engineer, you know, in my specified field of like nuclear weaponry, right? So talent trees, I think at the moment people are looking at them and seeing them as almost like rock style trees where you can do 45 and 15 splits. But I think the longer the game goes on and the more testing we get to do and the more actually like free time we get to test, especially with different talent trees, it's gonna like, I think, become a lot more eye-opening on what's the best way to build, because you'll figure out that, like, for example, someone like Velyn, you could go with like a Lilia primary and have a massive skill crit based march, right? That's perfectly fine. But you could also have Velyn as the primary, and you could do something like, for example, like a really weird or like consideration where you went 45 points in the control tree, and it would make the march this proper weird tank march that was like, if you target me, I literally steal your rage, and I'm going to silence you for hitting me because I'm going to nuke you quicker. So like, it opens up such crazy like actually builds that I don't think anyone's experimenting with at all. And that's what I think talent pages and talent builds are going to go in the future towards, because at the moment, like I said, everyone's treating it like rock, and they're not treating it the fact that I can stack these abilities. Like, I can stack, like in my Nico build, I stack purposely the counter attack damage. Like, why would you not do that? Like, if you have Nico, his skill 4 gives you over 20% normal attack and 20% counter attack damage. So if I can get now nearly 35% counter attack damage from my talent tree, why would you not do that? You're like focusing and microing in on that specific, point, which is like what you want to do with marches to get the best out of them. Like, so I'm hoping, like I say, in the future it goes into this really cool experimental mode. I just think we need more players to actually experiment and put out builds, and not be scared to put out builds as well, because it's quite hard to keep doing it. And I know you'll probably agree, it's quite hard to talent test at the moment because of the limitation of it literally costs us 1,000 gems to do, unless you get the talent page book in the goblin market, but that's still 600 gems to spend, right? And it's like, free-to-play players don't have the luxury to do that. So it's like, testing wise, you can't do that, and you need to be able to test in a beta game. So I hope in the future they give more talent like reset pages. So I wonder what your thoughts are on talent pages and everything I've kind of like said, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I do want to make a quick note though as well. I just because I didn't hear you mention this, and I'm sure it was just went past, but the milestone talents.
Yeah, I call them keystones. Yeah,
or keystones. Yeah, someone told me milestone in the beginning, and I don't. What's funny is I don't know if they have a name, right?
Yeah, I don't.
Feel like I should ask COD CS that to be like, hey, do you know the name of what this is? But it just should be stated, those cannot be stacked, right? But all of the leading talents or the lead up talents for those can be. So any of the ones that are on the rows that don't have that kind of, I don't even know, what is it, like an octagon or whatever the shape is for it, diamond shaped talents. With the borders, those ones specifically cannot be stacked, but all the other ones can be stacked.
Yeah.
So I think, and it's funny because we had this conversation before when it was maybe the first or second episode, we were talking about that for the Gathering Tree, and I think it maxes out at 5.2%.
Yeah.
But you have all 3 of those Earth Graces. And so again, I'm sure that's massive. And what's funny is that, to your point, to something you had mentioned a little earlier, we thought that from one of the recent updates, or I believe it was from the recent update, that they were going to change the way the Gathering XP interacted, where only gatherers could get. And I wonder, part of me now wonders, right? We'd have to go back and see, but part of me wonders if maybe what was happening before is that heroes, before they did the big Earth's Grace update, maybe before heroes were actually getting XP, like just from doing normal gathering. Now, I don't know, obviously, if that was happening. I'm talking, like 2, 3, 4 months ago, right?
Yeah.
If heroes, if anyone ever saw any type of XP gain from just doing general gathering before the most recent update came in, and then maybe the recent update was to make it to where you could only get XP if the gathering hero is the primary, and then the deputy could still get XP, right? Similar to how in Rock, where if you have a peacekeeper and you have shared XP, or you have the XP boost if you're running a Lohar as an example, then you'll get a boost of XP to the secondary commander. In this case, I wonder if that was the initial intent. Obviously, we'll have to see if they, patch it or not.
But it is, because it means, and it's weird.
Oh, 100%. I think it should be.
Yeah,
I think
it's so weird saying it, but it literally means it gives your gatherers so much importance in a season. It's so crazy, how, before, I was mentioning to you, when you're level. When you've got heroes level 55, 50, in that area, right? It's over 328,000, I think, XP off the top of my head, to level them up, right? So, when you're sending these guys to gather, you don't see this XP. So, especially, anyone who's in, SS1, server 5, 6, 7, I can guarantee most people up to a certain server level would not see this, this change, because they would have assumed, you did and I did, most people did, that gathering commanders only can get an XP, man. No one else can get XP anymore, because it was oh, what, I'm gonna have to grind so much more patrols to level up my guys. No, fuck that, dude. That's literally how everyone works.
Well, listen, to your point, right? That was something we touched on before, where I think I had mentioned at one point about I would love for them to make it to where you have the ability to max at level 60 at least 10 commanders, at least 10 heroes per season. Either by the time you get to Zone 3, or maybe by the time Flame Dragon comes up, right? To me, I just think that with season resets, I think, and I'm talking for those that are active every day. You're on a couple hours every day, you're active, or for those, or if they just come out with more events and they just add more events in the game, where for those that are on for maybe more than a couple hours every day, have the opportunity to level their heroes even more. But I do believe that, and I'm not saying you have to do it for every hero, but I do believe you should at least have the opportunity to gain enough experience to where you can max at level 60 at least 10 heroes, right? And by minimum, I mean legendaries. You should be able to max at least 10 legendaries when it comes to level, not to be confused with skill rating or stars, but that's just so you can have the max legion capacity, you can have a full talent tree set for those heroes, and everyone should be able to do that, right? So at minimum, that should be what free-to-play should be able to do, and then obviously anything beyond that, right? If you have more than 10 that are at 60, well, okay, then you're probably getting into either, you're on 10, 12 hours a day type territory, or you're spending, right? And I get that, but I think by doing that, it allows a full range of playability for the players that are actually hoping to enjoy the game, because otherwise you're just going to be grinding your heroes out every season, and you're never going to be able to have a full, because you have to think about it, if you want to field 5 marches, 5 legions, you would ideally want to try and have both of those heroes in each of the legions at 60. And if you're never able to get to that point every season, for the free to play, that's disheartening.
Yeah, it's weird. I'd always say you need at least 5. Like, you need 5 heroes at 60. Because if you have 5 heroes at 60, you have 5 primary commanders with full talent pages. So then if you have anyone who's like level 50, 51, 52, all the way up to 60, that's fine, because like the troop capacity like difference isn't going to be too much of a, like an actual like pain factor. Especially if you like I say, like I always think this game rewards good players. It's so weird. Like if you're a good player, you don't take damage. Like legit, like you watch people on the battlefield. I've seen people lower power than me absolute destroy people. Like it's so crazy watching them. Like they're able to just not be like, they're like in the shadow. That's the best way of putting it. Like they're in the shadow, you don't look at them, and somehow they're just killing you. And they're just happily killing you. And you're like, you don't even see them. And then like next minute when you do, you're like, oh wait, there's a guy there. They're already gone. They're already moving away from you. And you're like, wait, what? Like, it's so brutal. Like, if you're, like I say, if you're a good player and you understand mechanics and stuff, having literally 4K troop difference isn't gonna literally win or lose a fight. If you're good mechanically, you're gonna beat players. If you're just gonna run it like ROK style and just smash heads point blank and just like me mundo me click, don't think, like then that's fine. Wait, you deserve to lose.
Me Mondo? Did you just say me Mondo?
Yeah.
Oh, is it Mondo from League? League? Is that where you're going with that?
Me Mundo, me click.
Yeah, I was like, okay. I was like, man,
it's like, so simple, man.
That champion sounds really familiar.
Yeah, like it's so simple. Like, and like I say, if you're gonna play like that, if you've got 3K loss, you probably are gonna lose. But that's because you're not a good player, understanding mechanics, understanding movement, and understanding your match. So I always think this game rewards the good players, basically.
100%. And to double down on that, I think we've touched on this before. I think in the last episode when it came to the true skill type implication of things like counterattack damage, etc. Right? And I think I had mentioned at one point, what I would love to see the game progress to is where the game doesn't, because you think about it, like if you have a ranged mage unit and you go and attack someone else's mage unit, what happens? Well, the game handicaps you. It basically gives you a big handicap assist, and if, like, let's say your unit comes to attack my unit will automatically start returning fire.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge handicap, right? The game is basically giving you like true assist, or a hard assist, and the fact is the way I would like to see them progress it is where you can do damage to a unit, and they're doing no damage back to you until they select that unit and then select to attack your unit or another unit. So you're only ever doing damage to someone if you are online and you choose for that unit to attack. Now, with something like infantry and cav, like the counterattack damage, I'm still iffy on that. I know I've said before I would just love for them to remove counterattack damage, but then part of me feels like, well, would that potentially alienate infantry even more? And I somewhat am still kind of on the fence about that. So I don't know. I don't believe, at least at this time, I think they would need to remove that. But I do believe for like the range units, like if it's Celestials, Mage, Archers, at least for those, and maybe you could argue the ranged Mage, for those units that are non-melee, those ones should not be doing any counterattack damage at all. You have to actually click and select those units to then attack another unit, and if they did that, oh my god, the true skill level would be amazing, because you have to think about it now a free-to-play player could not crush, but they could beat a pay-to-win or even a whale player who's not paying attention, who maybe isn't engaged, or maybe they're just not online, and they're not just getting free return hits, right? It's just, like, that to me would make CoD, like, the god kingdom builder.
I think if you're offline, if you're offline, your match shouldn't, like, return fire, right? But the weird thing is, like, I'm like on the opposite side. I kind of love it because you know of the mechanic. A good player knows how to abuse that mechanic, man. It's so good. Like, the amount of times that you can click a mage unit that's AFK, or they might not, not being paying attention. You just target them, and then you get them to target your march with return fire. And you immediately just start slowly stepping away. And you slowly step away. And you keep doing it. And this mage march is like 100 meters away from where he should have been. And he's getting absolutely nuked down by like your entire murder ball. It's so funny, like drawing aggro and like pulling marchers out that are just targeting you and they're not realizing that they're targeting you. So like, I think it's a weird, like, would you say like a double-edged sword or something, like a very fine line to go on, because it's I get what you're saying, like a match shouldn't just randomly return fire, but at the same time it's like, bro, if I'm in the battlefield and someone just threw a fireball at me, I'm throwing a fireball back. I'm not just gonna stand there. Like, so
I think to that point, if you're offline, you shouldn't be in the field. That's the fact. You shouldn't have units out there. So you have to think about it, like they're on the other side, they're almost abusing it, right? It's kind of like the example of like a T5 player in Rock who just leaves their fields out in the open field. Why? Because they know that they're going to end up having a bunch of free-to-play players or lower power players try and attack them. How many times have we seen reports in Kingdoms of spenders having high level tier marches and just out teching others, and they just leave their troops out in the field because they know they're going to gain a bunch of free kills from it and gain a bunch of honor points in KVK because they're taking advantage of players who are who maybe just don't know specifically what the either the differences are, or maybe they think they are strong enough to attack the player and they're not. So for me, I'm looking at it more from like the everyday player side on, they're abusing it more so from that spender side. Now, and I'm not saying I don't see it from where you're coming from, but I'm looking at it on how are you going to increase the skill level. And the fact is that if you are not online, you should not be having your march out in the random open field. Now, maybe if you're going offline, but you have a march that's building or destroying a flag, okay, that's different. You can sell me on that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Keep, destroying a keep,
you're offline,
that's different.
If you're offline, your march should be just like flat out AFK. Like, it should just be like dead, basically. Like, it's just there. It's just some nice statues waiting to be plundered, basically, right? But I think if you're online, what they could do, maybe like to facilitate it, maybe put it in as a setting, like choose there's a setting that you turn off and on, like just toggle on in your actual gameplay settings. That's like troops return target fire, because like I can see certain players that want it on though, because like if you gotta imagine again, like if you're like you say an average player, an everyday player, right? Sometimes like you might not have the best like mobile phone, you might not even have the best connection, right? So like that certain times when you're in combat, and I know it's happened to myself, where like you start lagging out and the screen just like bloody Internet Explorer timer just spinning in a circle at you. Like when it's doing that, you need that return fire on, because like if you're not, you're just literally dead for no reason, and it's not even your mistake. It's just like a random occurrence by nature where your internet's just not playing up, or your phone's played up out of your control, and you've died now because your march hasn't been able to like return fire. So like it's such a weird one. Like I think like I agree where you're saying, but I think like you could probably just put it in maybe as like a setting or something, like, because I think it's like a weird mechanic that's needed in the game for like some players, and then at the same time, like you said, like it's just like not required for certain scenarios. So like if you're AFK, if you're not logged in, for example, properly, it's like, for example, like say if you've sent marchers out your city and you've logged off and your account's been off longer than like 3 minutes, like, because generally it takes people around 3 minutes probably to get back on their phone if they've randomly disconnected most of the time. Like, no one takes like a minute, right? So like, if you say like 3 or 5 minutes, if you're off longer than there, your march is just dead. It's just like you said, it's just a dead march. It's just, it won't return fire. It's just AFK, asleep, and anyone who attacks that march will just basically get 3 merits because, you know, they won't return fire. Like, I can see that. That seems fair and, like, understandable, because then, like you said, it'd stop so many, like, you could say, like, whales positioning so many troops in front of a pass to stop, like, you know, like, intercepts, for example, and stuff like that. So you could stop things from occurring maybe like that in the future. So that'd be, like, interesting, I guess, to see. But it's a really weird niche mechanic, I think, that the game surprisingly needs. Yeah,
I mean, I think just for me, I just want to see more true skill and, you know, just less people just leaving their marches out there just to...
On PC, there shouldn't be any. Yeah, I could say that. If you're on mobile, you should have return fire, and if you're on PC, legit, you should be good enough not to have return fire on. That should not be something that if someone's targeting you, you should be able to, like, see who's targeting you and retarget them, or reposition, move away. You know, there's so many different things you can do in that scenario. You know what I mean? Like, and with the controls you have at your disposal as a PC player compared to someone playing on the mobile phone client, like, I can see it, like, being turned off for PC players. That'd make it kind of fair, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm easy. I just want to see it uniform across the board. And if they did do it, I do personally think it would be a huge win for the game, because CoD would be the only game within the Kingdom Builder genre that, I mean, just by doing that, it would exponentially make the game more free-to-play friendly, because now you could basically have a selling point that says free-to-play players can take down whales.
Yeah.
And you legit could do that, right? And, you know, it would basically be like, you know, in StarCraft, they don't have return fire. Age of Empires, they don't have return fire. Warcraft, they don't have return fire. I should say, and I should asterisk this by saying to my knowledge for the time I played.
I was gonna say. You can hold ground. Hold ground holds an area and returns fire.
Well, yeah. Like in general, right? Like if you're attacking a unit, you know, it doesn't necessarily. I mean, to be fair, if you're within range for, like, I guess a standard RTS, if you're like within attacking range or something based on the range of that unit, then yeah, they might just auto fire no matter what. Like, you know, I've seen StarCraft 2 games where it's like, you know, Protoss versus Protoss, and you have, I'm forgetting what the walkers, I don't know if they're called walkers or not, but
the cannon rush.
Like once you get within range or attack range, like, they'll attack each other even as they're defending, or walking away, right? They will. But the point is like, not all units will do that across the game, and sometimes you actually have to point and click in order to do an attack. So if a unit has a farther range than you, and you just have a unit standing still, they're not going to run or move out of the way. They're not going to try to run up to that unit and attack it. They'll take that fire until the player or the other player initiates an action on that unit. And for me, that's really where, you know, I guess that's really where I'm kind of going more with it. I just think having that, to me, just seems like it would increase a level of engagement and attentiveness to the average player, where if you're going to be fighting, you need to be online, you know, you need to be paying attention, and if you're not able to dedicate that time, then, you know, go do something that doesn't necessarily require that, right? Maybe go attack a flag while other people fight, maybe go build a flag, maybe go destroy a flag, maybe go look for farmers to attack on tiles. Like, do something that's less demanding on your attention span and your level of engagement, because those are things that I think, you know, when it comes to increasing the true skill, that could eventually be a selling point for, you know, competitive kingdom builders. But again, I digress. Without overbeating the topic that is a dead horse, so to speak. Let's move on to Velyn and Kinarra, which are the two new heroes. Mm-hmm. And I should note as well, and again, I know you have your thoughts, I'll just give a brief opening here. I love these two new heroes. Why? Because they are the first two magic and physical, right? We should say mage and archer, legendary heroes that are pure PvP heroes, meaning they have all PvP skills.
Yeah.
They have no, like, you look at Nico, he has an engineering skill. You look at Liliana, she has a peacekeeping skill, etc. These are the first two mage and archer specific legendary heroes that are pure PvP. And so I love that they did this as well, because we didn't have any of those, right? So you can really tell that the developers are, who knows if they did that on purpose or not, but I would like to hope they did. Some thought behind it. So I love what Kinarra brings. I love what Velyn brings. So I'll let you kick this off.
Yeah. I'm an archer guy so far, as everyone knows. I am literally the archer guy. I'm trying to become the archer guy. So it's gonna be weird. I really like Kinarra, but at the same time, the more and more and more I look at her, it's like I have really weird mixed feelings about her, because like she has a really powerful ability. The fact that like she hits you for 1400 damage, right? And she reduces your damage by 15%, and it's all damage. This is not just like damage dealt. So any counterattack damage, poison damage, skill damage, any damage that match that you're fighting is against, 15%'s gone on everything. That is such an insane like a buff, like debuff to put onto someone. But then like you start like looking at her other skills, and it's like you can see why she's got the control tree, because it's like it's almost like she's like a mini tank. It's so weird. Like she's just such a weird archer so far because of it. Because she has obviously she has a 30% steroid, but then she has a 10% hero skill reduction. She has a physical counterattack damage dealt bonus. So if you're targeting her and multiple people are targeting her, she's getting even more physical target, like counterattack. So you don't want to hit her. It's like, imagine like Charles. Anyone who's played like Rise of Kingdoms knows exactly what I'm talking about. Like, you don't hit Charles when he's expertise. Why? Because he has insane amount of counterattack damage, and it just hurts, man. It hurts. It's like, it's literally the old saying, like when you're in school and they grab your arm and they start hitting. Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? It's literally that mechanic, like on a hero.
What do you think about like a Madeline Kinarra?
That's what I look at her as, but it's just like
not only because of the counterattack, but also because of the hero skill damage taken reduction that you're getting, and Madeline gets, and then you look at Madeline's active, and it's just I wonder if anyone would attempt that, because you could technically do that. Kinarra only has one skill that is marksman only, which is her third skill. So it's just, I don't know, it's just interesting, because you were talking about it before, like there just hasn't been enough kind of like theory crafting yet, because the game's so young. But like, to me, that's something that sticks out as, I wonder if anyone's going to test that.
Yeah, because it's like you go over it, like I was saying, like you have all these tanky elements to her, which make her like this weird bruiser kind of like archer. And then, like I said, like if you expertise her, she just becomes this weird, like her whole like dynamic shifts. Like expertise in a Kinarra compared to like a non-expertise Kinarra is actually massive. Like it's so insane, the difference that you're gonna have. Like, I can tell you right now, having a 1 in 5 chance to reduce someone's armor by 20% for 3 seconds is obscene, and you don't have that right now. When you have that, the amount of damage you're going to deal is going to transform this whole match. Like, it's going to be such a weird match to see, like, develop over time. So it's like, when I look at her, I'm always in this weird boat where I'm like, is she going to be insane? Like, is she going to be one of these arch heroes that I know I could expertise, and I know 1, 2, 3 years down the line, she's going to be, again, still worth it? And it's like, I really don't know. But then, when you look at Velyn, it's the complete opposite. It's like, you look at Velyn, he has a very clear mission. I'm going to hit you with AoE skill damage. I am the best at doing it now because of the skill crit, the skill bonus, the frozen mechanic when you have him on expertise. Like, he is, like I've already said in chat to a lot of people, and a lot of people that have spoken to me, like, for me, if I was going to make a brand new free-to-play player account and I'm looking at anything, Velyn's going to be, for me, like, almost the YSG of the game, where you can go expertise him, like, an Alex or YSG, like, one of these heroes that are such a key commander in Rock, like, when you expertise Velyn, in the future, every other mage that you pair with him is always going to be good. It's just going to be so insanely good. Like, and we've already seen it with... I've seen Hulk bring a 5-1-1-1 Velyn with his Lilia, and his Lilia used to be like rank 20, like 19. He used to average around there with that march because it's a magic march. But like myself, anyone else who's an archer boy, we're in the top 10. We're chilling, right? Oh, soon as Velyn's come out, he's every time he's in the top 10. Without failure now. Every single time. The fact that you've just jumped 10 ranks and you're not even expertised. You're not even got skill 1, which is giving you the hero skill damage boost of 15%. You don't even have the 10% magic skill crit damage, and you're already jumping 10 ranking spots. So like, he's going to be one investment for me, like, that I'm always going to invest into. He's going to be expertise probably first for me, unless somehow my Nico beats him with the golden keys. Like, it is what it is. Like, but
I think so. Yeah, so
Velyn's insane.
Yeah, so I'll say this. So it's really interesting because of so you only have 2 heroes in the game on the physical side, right, that do defense break. So you have now Kinarra, and then before Nico does defense break. And now I almost wonder if we're gonna get something where, you know, because you have to think about it, like what is the most efficient way right now to basically kill legions? Well, it would arguably be attacking the units that a Kinarra and a Kinarra and a Nico are attacking, and that a Velyn's attacking, right? Because and then it's you know, like, so for example, you would have like mage units that are doing magic defense break on archers, for example, and archers would be attacking magic units with their physical defense break, right, to kind of like to capitalize. And then you basically would have your allied, and you could do it, I'm sure, the other ways as well, but you know, you would almost look at what the unit stats are, and you would basically see, okay, well, how can I melt a unit as fast as I can? And then you would use physical and magic defense breaks on the specific units that have the lowest defense stats, to basically zero them or kill them even faster. And then you would have those specific legions leading the charge on those, and then you would kind of, you know, basically follow suit. So you would have people that would like be the ones who would be doing that on the field, right? So it's kind of like, you know, you're following whichever units your Velyns, your Nicos, your Kinarras are attacking, and you would focus on attacking those. Like, we're talking like, you know, if you want to go to like the next couple levels of, we're talking like professional coordination and and professional organization of your alliance members on the field. But that's interesting to me, because now you can run, right? You can now start looking at running, you know, those types of defense break legions, working those in, and then even, you know, with, for example, like you were saying with Velyn on the control tree. I mean, and obviously Kinarra is just awesome. And you know how much I love the control tree for Allwyn, right? Just for that, God, what's that skill? It's reticent. Yeah, oh God, and it's just, yeah, man, it's just, I'm with you 100%. Yeah. I think the opportunity, I think the possibilities for the levels of customization, Legion customizations, the fact that we're kind of going in like this Team Fortress 2, League of Legends type role play that CoD is going to really allow players to do, where you can run all mage, you can run all archer, you can run all infantry. I think we're really going to be going in that direction. Then you add on artifact skills, then it's like, okay, now it's making more sense. Now I can run more infantry based CC control based artifacts, on infantry units, and those are my disruptors that go in there, they try to C-tree, they try to split, and then maybe you'll have your mages and your archers running more damage-based artifacts, as an example. Maybe Cav will run more teleporting, range, type art, whatever it may be. Like, those possibilities, when I think about where we could be months or a year down the road on just the level of skill that we can see on the PvP side from a kingdom builder, that's what gets me excited. Because that's something that Rock could never do. And arguably, and respectfully, no other kingdom builder on the market could ever do at this time, as well as CoD could do it.
Yeah, definitely. Like, one thing I do want to just talk about before we finish up and that is it's stuff to do with these archers and that, because I want to give everyone who's obviously listened all the way through, which is an amazing feat. I do appreciate everyone who's listened all the way through so far. Basically, like, my thoughts on archers, right? Because you guys are here listening to us obviously talk about these talents and stuff, but like, you're probably wondering like what should you be running and stuff like that. So like, these are like my thoughts right now on how the game looks in its current state, and what's probably going to happen, I think, over time with the archer meta. So like, when you're looking at Nico and Kinarra, this is going to be the combo. You're going to have Nico, Kinarra. If you're a free-to-play player, or basically the best way of putting it, if you have a Kinarra that's not expertised, that's the best way of putting it. If your Kinarra is not expertised and you're looking to just specifically DPS, right? You should always have Nico in front and then Kinarra. It should always be in this order, because by putting it in this order, you're defense breaking the unit first, and then when you defense break the unit, the Kinarra hits straight after, doing even more damage to him, and then reducing their damage even further, and then you're able to like layer it. But when you have the expertise Kinarra, it's like the complete opposite. So you want Kinarra in the front and then you Nico behind, because now you have her expertise, you have a 20% chance, again a 1 in 5 chance to randomly defense break them for 20% for 3 seconds. And if you land this, and it's going to trigger more often than you think, it's going to trigger because it's going to trigger more often than you think. When Nico obviously triggers his skill now, he's already going to deal more damage because the defense break's already applied, and then straight after he's going to reapply a defense break because of his skill factor 1. So like, over time the arch meta is going to basically go into that area until obviously we get more archers. If you're looking for like mixed ups and stuff, it's always, everyone knows the favorite, it's always going to be Nico Gwanwyn. That match is just obscene right now for just raw DPS. But when you're looking for like talent trees, again, always if you're looking for anything, just look at my channel, look at anyone's channel, but don't be scared if you think you've messed up, because again, with talent trees, the beauty kind of them right now, until we maybe get a event or something that gives us more talent resets. Even if you make a page, or you start the page going that season, and you see something and you go, oh, I want to try that page, just take a note and you can make that talent page next season, right? That's what all I've done for a lot of the time, unless I've had like extra gems to spend to actually test these out. Sure. But that's kind of like the beauty of it, you know. You can run like I did. I had Nico last season set up with a full precision raid build. If I was PvPing or raiding, he had the exact same build that I ran in my latest video, right? But now, because of the way, like, as we know, like how harsh talents are, it's kind of like you can set a specific hero to a role. So it's like my Gwanwyn's role is going to be a raid leader. So if I'm going into any behemoth raids now, I'll always put Gwanwyn as primary. I already have a precision tree set for her for raids, and then I'll, you know, combo whoever I need to. At the time, it could be Nico, it could be Kinarra, whoever I choose behind him, right? And now you go to PvP, it's like I have Nico, and he has a PvP tree on, which uses like 45 points in marksman, 15 in, you know, the precision tree. So like, it allows you to actually now have 3 talent pages or 4 talent pages on 4 different marksman units. So you can actually experiment by doing that. And then, like I said, season comes, season resets, guess what? You've got another 4 talent pages to test out again, and you can say, if you tested, say, the raid build on Nico and you were happy with it, well, put that aside, put it on Go and Win, because we know we're happy with it now, and, you know, test something else on someone else. And I think that's going to be a really good, like, a bit of advice for everyone. And again, this works for any March. I know I'm talking about archers mainly, because I'm kind of like the archer guy I'm trying to be, but if you're a cavalry player, it's the exact same thing. If you're an infantry player, it's the exact same thing. Like, I did this in the very first season. I was an infantry main, and then next season I tested out different infantry, you know, talent trees, and I've kind of like settled on what I like at the moment. But again, like, you only do that from the talent resets every season, so don't feel like if you make a mistake it's end of the world. It's not Rise of Kingdoms where, you know, whatever you do is set in stone unless you actually, you know, rectify it. The game's about learning and building and gaining experience over time, and it rewards you for doing that, right? So I hope anyone who ever gets a bit, you know, flustered or stressed out at talent pages, or just does not understand talent pages at all, like, gives a little bit more, you know, security, feels a little bit better about themselves after that, right? So that's what I wanted to close on. I don't know about any thoughts about you over what I said.
Yeah, no, man. Honestly, my view on talent pages is they just need to be free. You know, that's I'm pretty simple. I think talent pages should be free, and I also think that you should be able to preset every single one of your talents up to 60, and then as you gain a new level, that talent will automatically be selected, right? Like, you could basically pre-select the trail or the pathing that you want to do, and every hero, regardless if you've unlocked them or not, even for the gated ones, you still should be able to view their talent pages. Like, that bugs me. It does that I just because I don't have a hero unlocked, I can't go view their talent page, you know. It's like that doesn't affect anything, that doesn't hurt anyone. So you know, that's something I would love for them to change, and that's like a suggestion people have asked me to submit to as well. So I probably will after I type it up, but I do think that's something really important that they should do. Anyways, that's my last little add-in. I know we're getting close here to the end, so we can go ahead and, you know, start getting ready to close things out. Obviously want to thank everyone for tuning in, especially for our consistent team team members here that have been enjoying. I know we do these kind of ad hoc, just whenever we have the time, and we always try and let everyone know when we have them going on, so that way people can tune in, you know, when they are able to, and of course if they're able to. So as always, right, if you want to get a notification anytime we do go live, right, you can just join the Discord. We'll have a link to that in the pinned comment description down below in the video. Obviously, again, want to give a huge shout out to Sneaky for being again the awesome, super chill co-host today, as per usual, and always a pleasure chatting it up about numerous topics. And I love how we're always trying to kind of stay up to date, and you know, again, it's kind of letting it flow, right? It's not Let It Go from Frozen, which my kids constantly watch all the time, but more of a Let It Flow type vibe. And I love the back and forth that we get from that. Again, before I kind of do the official closeout, Sneaky, please tell the people at home, right, what you have going on, and or just where people can find you.
Yeah, no problem. Like, everyone knows anyone who's in my tight circle knows that I am in March, when hopefully the game releases and when your little project obviously launches. I'm going to be doing a free-to-play, like, Road to Glory series, so anyone who's looking for something where it's actually like a pure free-to-play experience, it's going to be hopefully a day-by-day guide where you can see the account grow, and then obviously if I'm live streaming, I'm going to be live streaming the account as well, so you're going to see it grow completely free-to-play over seasons. You know, that's my aim. Obviously if you want to check that out, as you can see on my side, it's at MrSneakyy. I've got obviously Discord, that'll be in hopefully the description below, and obviously my Twitter as well, I believe, is MrSneakyy94, so check me out on there. But everything again will be in the description below for myself and for Boss on my video anyway, so if you're looking for any of the information, just again check below basically.
All right. Basically, check downtown. That'll be where all the information and the socials and the good stuff will be listed. As always, from me, man, I am so happy that we started this, and people have been enjoying the CoD Pod so far. So hopefully we can keep growing and get some more guests on. I know we had Shinshi last week. I know we've reached out to people like Hulks and gosh, who was it? Raiden, I think was one.
Hopefully Raiden comes next week. It'd be cool.
Yeah, and so anyone else that is coming in, obviously trying to get as many people on board. We might even be looking at maybe some special guests, maybe like some top players, possibly, or some leaders for reps for maybe some top alliances across the game. That's something that would be cool to maybe see. So again, we're definitely going to be looking to try and bring you some interesting takes and maybe some interesting additions for guests and hosts, or co-hosts we should say, in future episodes. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for us. So again, as always, we hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for still listening to us. And as always, until next time, we will catch you later.